Hello once again and welcome to The Verdict. Glad you're with us. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers. We're here every week meeting interesting people and dealing with topical issues, and we've got both of those in line today.
We do indeed. We're going to welcome back a friend of The Verdict for his fifth visit, Blake Wade. He's been with us on a number of different occasions on a number of different topics, not the topic we're going to talk about today. And he's going to bring along his Director of Marketing, Shoshana Wasserman, and we're going to talk about the American Indian Cultural Center. It's partially under construction in Oklahoma City. Find out what's behind it, what's it going to be, what's it going to look like, and all the good things about it.
Right. What's the history, what's the future of the American Indian Cultural Center? Blake Wade today on The Verdict. We'll be right back.
What I can offer is insight into understanding the Native American art, how these artists are expressing themselves as cultural people. I am Heather Ottone. I'm a Native American researcher and curator, and I am Chickasaw. I can remember in first grade the teacher saying, "Well, you're so lucky you don't look Indian." That was difficult to hear because it was what I was. It's what I am. I think there's a renaissance going on amongst the tribes. I think the Chickasaws are leading that. We didn't die. We're not gone. So what are we now? And what can we do now to start to form that identity, to survive into another century, and to have the culture guiding us into that future? That would be significant.
See more stories about the Chickasaw people at chickasaw.tv.
It's a North American energy revolution. We're the fastest growing source of new oil and natural gas supplies in the world.
The shift to North American energy will create approximately 3 million jobs.
All that money we've been sending overseas, $400 billion a year. Imagine that staying in our economy. It's a game changer.
Real energy independence starts now, and it starts with Oklahoma.
Welcome back to the set of The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers, and Kent's going to introduce today's guests.
Today we're really pleased to welcome one of our guests back to the set of The Verdict for his fifth appearance. Blake Wade's been on our show a number of times with different topics, and we're really pleased to have him back. Blake is the CEO of the Native American Cultural and Educational Authority. He did his undergraduate work at the University of Oklahoma, had a very stellar medal-laden military career for 20 years in the military, and was a Vietnam veteran. He was the executive director of the Oklahoma Historical Society for 9 years, was a director of the Centennial Commission very successfully. We had that wonderful Centennial celebration. Blake was right at the heart of that. And he has been the president of the Oklahoma Business Roundtable, and since 2011, he's been with the Native American Cultural and Educational Authority. That's a mouthful. But we're sure pleased to have you back.
It's an honor to be here.
To my left is Shoshana Wasserman. Shoshana has been actually with the Native American Center longer than Blake. She is the Director of Marketing and Development for the American Indian Cultural Center. She did also her undergraduate work at the University of Oklahoma, was with City Arts Center for a number of years and the Oklahoma Children's Theater. She was the Artistic Director for the American Indian Dance Company for a number of years. She is a member of the Muskogee Creek Nation, and this is her first visit to The Verdict, so welcome to The Verdict.
Thank you.
Let's start at the beginning. For some viewers, this may be the first time they've heard of the American Indian Cultural Center. For others, it may have heard about it 5 years ago or 10. but it goes back even further than that. When did you first hear about it, and kind of take us through the timeline?
Well, my best shot at it was it really started, the authority as a state agency, first of all, for the state of Oklahoma, and it started in 1994. But even before that, Governor Henry Bellman was big on doing something of this nature. So, you know, we're talking 20 or 30 years that all the governors have supported doing an American Indian Cultural Center. You know, we got 39 tribes in Oklahoma. Everyone knows in the military, when you were in Europe, everyone talks about Oklahoma, they wanted to talk about Indians. And so our first and most foremost is to do a cultural center for these 39 tribes.
And way back then, people didn't necessarily know where this center might be located. So go through the site selection process.
Well, I wasn't here, but indirectly I was playing a role in that, you know, at one time it was going to go to Tulsa, but Tulsa said, you know, they didn't think they would like to have it. And then another time it was going to be out between Oklahoma City and Edmond, and that really didn't turn out. And then Oklahoma City was really the one that came through with, at that time, on the river, or down on the river, but it didn't have any water down the river, we know that. And this particular piece of property was really there were 30 to 40 oil wells. I mean, the environmental the problems with the property took about 3 to 5 years. So that just gives you a little brief history about how far we've had to come just to make it environmental friendly. And now that the water's there and the boat houses, I mean, this is prime property now, Mayor.
Oklahoma puts in the land, Oklahoma City puts in the land, the state of Oklahoma makes it a state agency, and so in the late 90s, things kind of percolating. When was the first money appropriated?
About 1997, they got a little seed money at the beginning, but then again, they started getting bond funds. And really, they were trying to piecemeal it. And, you know, it's very difficult when you start talking about something lasting, now it's about 18 years. Well, the reason why, when you just give a little bit of money towards something, it takes that much time to really build it up. So they were doing bits and pieces all the way up. Right now, we're at 50% completion, and we have about $90 million invested in that land, in the building. So, you know, we're really at a crosshair because we've got $40 million in private dollars right now that we will have to be matched by the state in order to make this thing a reality.
Well, Shoshana, let me ask you how you got involved with the center.
Well,
the proposed center.
Well, you know, this, I think, for American Indian people has been a dream for a long time. We have a rich history here in Oklahoma. Even our state's name comes from two Choctaw words that translate mean red people. And so I think it's part of the fabric of our identity here. And with 39 tribes, very distinct tribes, we speak over 12 different language families that all of the 39 tribes can be attributed to. So that's such a diverse set of cultures. And if you were to travel all over Europe, you would not encounter as many different cultures or as many different languages as we find here in Oklahoma. So I was always very interested. My undergraduate degree is in education, so I was very interested in educating people on our rich history here in the state of Oklahoma. And what's even more significant is this is really America's history. It's not just Oklahoma's history, because so many of our tribes really came from other homelands, all the way from California, the Modocs, you know, coming from that part of the country, the Delawares coming from the Northeast, Seminoles coming from the Southeast. So this is a national story, and it's one to be very proud of. So I became familiar with the project many, many years ago. I came on with the project in October 1st, 2005, right before we were preparing for the ground blessing ceremony. And I know you remember that special occasion.
It was a special day to see representatives from, I guess, every one of those tribes. It seemed like it. And I know that was kind of a landmark day in the American Indian history to see so many tribes represented in one location. And indeed, that's the site where the facility is currently being constructed. People are generally aware of what a museum is, but what's a cultural center?
Well, you know, a museum, often we have this idea that museums are just housing objects in cases. And a cultural center, we have the rare opportunity to connect with the 39 tribes of Oklahoma because we're in such close proximity to all of the tribes. So there'll be programming and events and educational opportunities, demonstrations. We can really envision, and I have to say that since the very beginning of this project, at every occasion when the tribes have been asked to participate, whether it was the creation of the concept for how the stories would be told or what would be shared, at every occasion the tribes have stepped up and have been willing participants, and we don't see that changing. We see the tribes being part of the programmatic aspect, and that's what will make us different than, say, the National Museum of the American Indian in Washington, D.C. We're in such close proximity that we will see the tribes having cultural events and special activities, educational symposium and seminars going on in our facility all the time.
Well, Blake, you've been involved in the putting the Guardian on the top of the state capitol, the statue of the Indian warrior, I guess, protecting the state capitol in the state of Oklahoma. Did that play any part in your taking on this additional role?
Well, absolutely. If we go back to the Centennial of Oklahoma, we did over 1,000 projects, and that there's only one remaining that has not been completed, and that's the American Indian Cultural Center. The first one was with Governor Frank Keating and doing the dome. And of course, you know, I thought that was a wonderful idea, but you know, it took 80 years for that dome to go on our Capitol. So this is kind of, this 18 years is not as difficult as that. But then it got down to putting on, what were we going to put, Will Rogers, or who was going to go on top of that dome? And it was decided, and rightfully so, to put that Guardian. And I couldn't be more pleased to say this because it gives me courage today. The dome, not many people liked to put the dome on the Capitol. They liked it the way it was. And it was supposed to be there, it was supposed to have a dome, and we did it. Today, after that dedication, no one seems to not like it. I mean, they think it's great. And so I'm hoping, and I know it'll be the same, when the American Indian Cultural Center is opened down on that beautiful Oklahoma River, there will be thousands of cars. There's 156,000 cars per day go by that crossroad of I-35 and 40. When we start stopping them, we're talking about a destination spot. And we will be able to show the world, you know, really what Oklahoma is all about with the Cowboy Hall of Fame and now the American Indian Cultural Center. It gives me goosebumps to just sit here and think about the excitement that we really have captured.
Blake Wade and Shoshana Wasserman are working on the American Indian Cultural Center project. We'll hear more about it when we get back.
When you have something important to communicate, it becomes clear that there's a lot of competition for your audience's attention. So how can your message stand out and actually resonate with your audience? Legal Graphics has the answers. The team at Legal Graphics will work with you to plan, design, and even test your presentation to ensure your message will be heard and remembered. Call Legal Graphics today to schedule an appointment. The readiness is all.
The good life comes naturally to Tulsa, where nature's beauty is matched with an eye for aesthetics. A legacy of neighborhoods graced with lawns and landscaping and handsome homes. A place that seems to have patented an ideal lifestyle. Bank First is loyal to the quality of life Tulsa assures its citizens, to the priority placed on education, culture, and growth. Loyal to builders who transform raw land into residential charm. Developers who see opportunity and add vitality to Tulsa's economy. Bank First serves both enterprise and private lives that need a loyal partner. It's how we help nurture this city's very good life. Bank First. Loyal to Oklahoma. Loyal to you.
Welcome back to the set of The Verdict. We're visiting with Shoshana Wasserman and Blake Wade about the American Indian Cultural Center. And, I think a lot of people see the facility halfway under construction. They may not be able to connect it, though. They've heard about the Cultural Center, they've seen that building, but may not know that's what it is. But it's right there at the axis of I-35 and I-40, kind of on the southeast quadrant of that. And it has the beautiful ground, the mound, I guess, is probably the best way to describe it.
Well, I'd love Shoshana to tell us about that mound. I was always wondering, why did we build that mound out there?
Well, it's a great question, and I think a lot of people wonder about that. We have one of the most significant archaeological sites in all of North America, right here in the state of Oklahoma, the Spiro Mound. And the mound building cultures are just rich cultures, and they're evidence of commerce and culture and trade going on for thousands and thousands of years. And that's on the eastern side of our state. And I'm Muskogee Creek, Tlaptlaco tribal citizen, and a descendant of the mound building cultures. And even I, coming into this project, did not realize that 30 of our 39 tribes are descendants of mound builders. So that's really a significant history that goes way back. And so we kind of look at ourselves as being 21st century mound builders, and we're reestablishing a place of commerce, culture, and trade. And then if you look on the western side of our state, at the Cooper site, we have one of the oldest bison heads that has an actual red painted symbol on it. Once again, evidence of commerce and culture and trade going on. So Oklahoma has a very rich history for thousands and thousands of years. And this can be compared to the ruins in Egypt, the pyramids in South America and Egypt, and it's just not something that people know a lot about. So it's a remarkable opportunity to really uplift those cultures and those histories.
And a little bit of the funding still has to be taken care of, and the legislature is promising to address that in I guess, probably January or February?
Absolutely. Hopefully around the third week of February. My glass is half full. Last year, we were that close. I'd just been before the Republican House Committee, and they'd passed us. We were going on to the Senate floor the following day, and all of a sudden the tornado hit South Oklahoma City. Governor Anatubby, in his gracious ways, along with the governor and the leadership, said, I think we must postpone this because we're going to need all the money we can to provide for the, for the tornado victims and the situation. I kind of personally wanted to go ahead, but because of the wisdom of our leaderships, we put it off another year. And with our donors, and thanks to Barry Switzer and Lee Allen Smith for getting out there and raising the $40 million, that was part of what our situation was, and that was to be matched by the states to finally complete the entire project. And I know it was expensive, or is expensive, but may I say to everyone that this Cultural Center Museum was built for the Smithsonian, to be able to bring collections from the Smithsonian down here. And if we didn't do it first class, we would never been able to get it. So I know that once we accomplish and complete this, that watch out Oklahoma, because everyone will be very proud to bring their guests to this Indian Cultural Center.
Well, this will be another destination point for the Oklahoma River. I mean, as you were good in pointing out in the first part of the show, back at the time this was being envisioned, the Oklahoma River didn't amount to much. There wasn't any water in it, and it may have had the name, but that was about it. Now there's all kinds of attractions down there, and it's just getting more and more all the time.
Oh, I like to call it, we're the eastern bookend to this fabulous river. We finally are completing with this American Indian Cultural Center. People will be able to get on that river and go all the way through the boathouse area and all the way down to the American Indian Cultural Center and get off and have lunch. I envision us even having all this wonderful activity just right there on the river, because water is really an important part of the Indian Cultural Center. But just think of the magnitude of what all has gone on to that Oklahoma River. No one knows that more than Mayor Cornett either.
Well, and another thing that I think excites those of us that encourage tourism is that we already have the Western Heritage Center, which is in many ways a salute to the West, but kind of encompasses the cowboy. And so here you have the cowboy and then the American Indian in the same city, and would allow people, I think, to get kind of get a complete picture of what those days were like. And of course, those days can be centuries depending on how you want to view it.
If the money should become available through the next legislative session, what then? What is the construction time? When could we reasonably expect money, if money's available, it would open?
Kent, right now we have Flintco and Manhattan, two Oklahoma companies that merged together to do the dome on our Capitol. We never use anybody that did in Oklahoma, by the way. And these two companies are standing by ready to go to work immediately when Governor Mary Fallin signs that we have our funds. We have the plan ready to go, and it will take approximately 2 to 3 years to finish it completely. And we're delighted because many of our pledges from our private donors are contingent on, of course, the state's funds. So they have to match, and then again, there will never be another penny provided on this construction project, and we feel that it will happen this legislative session.
Well, what's your vision for what a visitor will see or experience when they see it for the first time once it's open and operating?
Well, first and foremost, it's an epic indoor and outdoor adventure for an entire family. Family will arrive, they arrive symbolically from the east and move towards the west because our doorways open towards the east. So from the moment that a person arrives, their experience and journey begins. They'll have an intimate relationship with nature. There are 4 elements that when we were working with the tribes early on, these became elements that were very significant. That's the river, or water, earth, fire, and the wind. And so there are many ways that we interpret American Indian philosophies through those natural elements. Then they'll come into the building space and they'll be able to participate in hands-on activities in the Children's Discovery Center. They'll go into exhibition areas, one of which is the Smithsonian National Museum of the American Indian exhibition that talks about the continuum of culture and is a very poetic and beautiful gallery that matches up historic items with contemporary items to show that our cultures are rich in a long-rooted history, but they also continue today. Then they'll move into the long-term exhibition space where we have the daunting task of telling the collective history of 39 distinctive nations. One time there were 67 different tribes that had a historic relationship with Oklahoma. So we'll tell that story, we'll tell the historic story, and we'll tell the contemporary reality today. We have 4 different immersive theaters where people will go and they'll experience and they'll hear firsthand accounts from Native peoples of the stories that have been passed down in our families for generations, and our contemporary realities, our artists who are creating new works of art. And that's another whole significant area. So many of our Oklahoma artists are featured in art markets out at the Heard Museum in Arizona, Santa Fe, New Mexico, and Portland, Oregon, and it'll be a wonderful opportunity for us to highlight those American Indian artists here in the state of Oklahoma. So it will be just a tremendous experience for families, for international tourists, for regional visitors, one that I'm very excited to share. School children, absolutely.
And so, Shoshana, there's expected to be some sort of private sector reaction. Once the facility was open and is performing as expected, wouldn't you expect some sort of development to come in and perhaps make it a conference center or additional concepts could come forward?
Yes, you're absolutely right. It will be a cultural heritage destination, and we can envision conferences from all over the United States wanting to locate here because it will be such an amazing, one-of-a-kind destination, and we can envision a hotel and conference center, shops, dining, art galleries. So just a very exciting opportunity. And we are, and we have to know this, we are a destination where friends and family visit primarily. And we have to become a beloved institution here with our local audiences before we can ever attract those international audiences. But we know that this will be a place when friends and family visit or business people arrive, they're going to want to, as Blake said, they're going to want to experience our Western heritage and our American Indian heritages. And we know that when the NBA playoffs were here, that's what they were looking for. So we're excited to deliver on that.
Shoshana Wasserman, thank you very much for coming on The Verdict. Blake Wade, as always, look forward to your next visit as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
Kent and I'll have a final word when we return.
All children deserve a life of hope and love, but sometimes they experience a life of pain, neglect, and abuse.
When that happens, each child deserves all the quality assistance and representation that can be offered in our legal system. For more information, call 23-CHILD.
Oklahoma Lawyers for Children, helping to bring hope and love back to the lives of abused children.
You will always be mom and dad to me.
I think for us, once we got started and we began to see the tremendous need just within our state, it really was just a calling for us. The blessings far outweigh any obstacles that we've faced.
You will always be mom and dad to me.
The Journal-Record is pleased to be a sponsor of The Verdict. The Journal-Record, since 1903, the best source of Oklahoma business news and legal information.
And for almost 30 years, Oklahoma political, government, and business leaders have turned to the McCarville Report for accurate, reliable, inside information. Visit the McCarville Report online.
We're back on the set of The Verdict, wrapping up a show in the American Indian Cultural Center.
Yes, Blake Wade and Shoshana Wasserman are doing a grand job trying to get that up and running, and I think it'll be a great addition to the city once it is up and running.
All eyes on the state legislature this upcoming session to see that the funding gets completed, and of course the matching funds coming from the private sector. If you'd like more information, we have a website you can go to and get more info about the American Indian Cultural Center. And that web address is theamericanindiancenter.org, theamericanindiancenter.org. And we have a website, theverdict.tv. Tell us about a guest you'd like to see on an upcoming edition. That's going to do it. For Kent Myers, I'm Mick Cornett. We'll see you next week on The Verdict.